Well, thank you so much for watching The Girls Who Waited. I'm here at TimeGate with Terrance Dicks, who is a classic Who writer. So thank you so much for doing this. My question for you, I've just begun to watch classic Who episodes and get into the very first episode for the third Doctor, and I've seen the 5 Doctors. What do you have to say to some of the newer Who fans who haven't watched a lot of classic Who, and for them to kind of get started watching more of the classic Who?
Well, you don't really have to say anything, because once people realise that there's this long history, and once they get onto it, it seems to fascinate them. What astonishes me is how much interest there is in shows from my era, which, let's face it, in the 70s and 80s, and a fair old time ago. But the last show I actually wrote for Doctor Who was the 20-year anniversary in 1983, and now we've come up to the 50th, and it's still as big as ever.
Has it been fun for you watching New Who now, and knowing that you were part of such, a fantastic show so many years ago, and seeing how it's continuing to grow?
Yeah, it was an amazing surprise when it came back, because I remember I bought a book about it, and the chap started off, one thing we must remember about Doctor Who is it's over and done with, it's finished, and now we can discuss what was done. And, boy was he wrong, it came, suddenly it came back with a huge bang, which was extraordinary. All down to Russell T Davies, really, who had the clout to bring it back. He'd done a show for the BBC, called Queer as Folk, which had been a huge success, and they wanted him to write something else, you see. It's a great position for a writer. They're saying, please write us something. And he said, I want to do Doctor Who. And they said, oh, don't be silly, Doctor Who's over and done with. And he said, no, I want to do Doctor Who. And they said, oh, well, all right, just one season, then, they didn't think it would last. And he had the clout to get away with it, bless him, you see, so we owe it all to him in the first instance.
What was one of your favorite episodes to write, or serials, I guess? Do you have a favorite that you really enjoyed writing or creating?
No.
No?
That is, forgive me, that is a fan question.
Yes.
If you're a professional, you don't look at it in that light. Your favourite one is the one you're doing, for which they're about to pay you, But I don't look back and sort of review it and say which is my favourite. It's a different kind of mindset.
Yeah. Was it different for you writing? I know you wrote John Pertwee, you wrote the first episode for Tom Baker, and then you did the anniversary special with Peter Davidson. Was it different writing for each Doctor and kind of...
No, the thing about that is that the Doctor is always the Doctor. He's always basically the same character. You get superficial differences, which are the sort of eccentricities and the mannerisms of the actor who's playing him. But at the core of it, it's always the same character.
Yeah, I just finished the Green Death. The Green Death. Thank you. I keep wanting to call it the Green Mist. And I had seen before that the first for the third Doctor, where we have Liz Shaw, and then the very contrasting Joe Sharpton and Joe Grant. Sorry. I have watched these, I promise.
I can't remember the titles anymore.
Just your thoughts on those two characters you mentioned earlier in the panel about writing the companions and the difference between...
Well, I can only repeat what I said at the time. It was the rising tide of feminism, as it were. See, originally the duty of the female companion was to get into trouble and then stand there and scream until the Doctor came and rescued her. But gradually it was becoming aware we weren't going to get away with this very much longer, you see. And we had Liz Shaw, who was quite a strong female character, but then we switched to Katie, who was kind of cute and lovable and always getting into trouble. But it became obvious that, that kind of things had changed, and so we created Liz, Sarah Jane Smith, and who was never the Doctor's assistant. She was a freelance journalist, she had a life of her own, and I think that set the pattern since, You cannot now have a feeble female character. They've all got to be strong, independent women.
I really like Sarah Jane. She's a fun character.
Yeah, and great that she came back and got her own show, you know, and that was really very good.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me today. I really appreciate it.
Okay,
Thank you.